The morning of November 8th, the only thing we knew for sure was that the next president of the United States was going to be from New York. 2 weeks later, New Yorkers are dealing with the reality of having a president-elect holed up at the corner of 56th and 5th. And while the resulting traffic may be a uniquely Manhattan issue, the reporters at DNA Info are looking past the gridlock to forecast what a Trump administration may mean for New Yorkers far beyond Midtown.
Adrian Gardiner is a reporter at the site who's written about backlash to the election. Welcome back to BK Live, Adrian. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And Rachel Holliday-Smith covers Crown Heights and Prospect Heights, where neighbors are mobilizing to help love, Trump, hate. Welcome to you both. Thank you very much for being here. We're going to talk about Trump Block. I was just there last night.
Where's that?
Oh, right there in Midtown on 55th and 5th. Unbelievable scene up there, you know? Kind of eerily quiet on a Sunday night, too.
I'm sure.
But regardless of that, I want to start with you guys. You're both people who have your finger on the pulse of this borough. What has been reactions far and wide that you've gotten since the election from people here? A lot of people here voted for Hillary Clinton. What has been the reaction to that?
Sadness?
Yeah, shock, I suppose. I mean, that's a prevailing emotion throughout the city and probably the country. I mean, there are a lot of people who are very happy that Trump was elected, but Brooklyn predominantly voted for Clinton. I mean, DNA put together this great map that you can see in stark blue and red how many Clinton supporters there are here.
And there were a lot. I cover Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and the vast majority of it was the Clinton, blue area. Yeah. And I tweeted out, shouted out a block that, in fact, not a single Trump vote came in. There was one block, Dean, between Brooklyn and New York, and people were really happy to be on that block. They were proud. They were proud that no Trump votes came in on their block. Wow. So that's the kind of sentiment. We've also seen an outpouring of, this. Love Trump's hate message. Yeah. Our colleagues in Windsor Terrace, there have been signs that say, tear-off signs that say, "We love you, we support you."
We actually have. I happen to be a Kensington person newly for the last year now, and I've not seen the signs in the neighborhood, but we actually pulled a picture of them that say, "Okay, we love our neighbors who happen to be black and brown." But it talks about the people who are out in the street who were using their printers to say we're not with this Trump stuff.
Yeah, and what you're seeing right now is this rally that happened right after the election on the Sunday morning after the election, and a Brooklyn author and parent in Park Slope, it was a sort of impromptu thing. It was just come out, make a sign, hold it up in Grand Army Plaza. I was there, and the horns were honking. Yeah. A lot of people were supporting that message, and it was just a lot of families who were just making these signs and saying, "This is not how we think."
Yeah. And are those happening other places?
Yeah, absolutely. Can we talk about Manhattan? Is that allowed on BK Live?
Of course.
That's been happening almost every night in Manhattan. A little bit more aggressive, maybe, than the one that was in Grand Army Plaza. Yeah. But do you want to talk about what's been going on in Midtown?
Yeah, I mean, for the first time in modern history, a president will be calling New York home, and there is a gigantic symbol to that man sitting in Midtown. And so it has drawn, like a magnet, thousands upon thousands of protesters. We talk about Trump Block for drivers, but there's also this human element that is clogging up the roadways as well. I think the other day there were 20,000 people surrounding Trump Tower and the streets around it, which is just an incredible outpouring of sentiment and people.
What long-term effect do you think this will have on the city, all this Trump gate? I mean, is there even a chance that this all subsides?
Trump Block.
Trump Block.
Gate is coming.
Yeah, that's
coming soon to a news outlet near you. This Trump Block. I mean, is there potential for him to still say, "Okay, I'm going to go live in the White House"? And if not, what sort of long-term potential will this have on the 5 boroughs?
I mean, he has made himself known to be very mercurial, so it's sort of hard to say what he actually plans to do. There are certainly talks. I mean, he has said that he wants to come back to New York City every weekend, I think. And just over the weekend, it was announced that Melania and his son Barron would be staying here at least until June, the end of the school year. So they're at least going to be here, going to and from school.
Same level of protection.
Same level of protection. And certainly when he's in town, there's going to be his long motorcade. I think on Saturday, there were hours-long delays around the Lincoln Tunnel because he was just driving through.
Yeah.
So you can expect a lot of that, essentially.
I mean, when Obama came a few times during his 8 years, it was just a mess.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can imagine.
Imagine
how
if the
bad that
guy
was.
lived here. But to that end, too, there are also a lot of New Yorkers who potentially will be part of the Trump administration. I had some names. So there was, of course, Rudy Giuliani, who we presume would still be here. Jamie Dimon, who was the CEO at J.P. Morgan, and Chris Christie as well. And Eva Moskowitz, we heard, sort of turned them down for an education post. But there are a lot of New Yorkers who could potentially be Washington power brokers now.
Absolutely.
And when they're in town, they'll also have their own security apparatuses that then snarl up traffic as well.
Yeah, Giuliani was one concern. He rose pretty deep.
Sam Schwartz noted that Giuliani likes the opera, so anytime he goes to take in La Boheme or something, he'll be.
Oh, good luck, Sam.
Yeah.
Sam Schwartz. Okay.
Good luck, Sam. Yeah.
The feeling in Crown Heights, at least, about Giuliani, there's a small pocket of people who are actually very pro-Giuliani, which are the Lubavitch community in Crown Heights, which by and large voted for Trump.
Right.
When we did our breakdown of who voted for who, it was red in the Lubavitch sort of section. And I spoke to some Lubavitchers who said Giuliani was great after the Crown Heights riots. We really like him. He's a friend to us. He's a friend to New Yorkers. And they're very happy about that.
And what other areas is that loyalty to Trump in? We talked about people that voted for Hillary around here, but of course a lot of people voted for Donald Trump for president.
Right. In my area, I only saw it in those blocks south of Eastern Parkway near Kingston Avenue, which is traditionally the Lubavitch area. But it sort of surprised some newcomers to Crown Heights because I think they just assumed that everybody was a Clinton supporter, but it's not the case. Where else in Brooklyn? It was most of southern Brooklyn.
Right.
So if you get down into Midwood, if you go down in Bay Ridge,
strongholds.
definitely Coney Island, Sheepshead Bay, those areas. A lot of Brooklyn was red on our map. I mean, people think of it as this really blue stronghold, but we had a lot of
SNL
red.
just mocked Brooklyn for being hyper liberal. They had a big skit about the bubble around Brooklyn.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see
But
that.
I mean, if you look at our map, it's much more politically diverse.
Yeah, what about Chinatown?
You mean in
Chinatown? Yeah, in Sunset Park?
I don't know off the top. I don't know. I think it was mostly blue, but I'm not sure.
Somebody in my ear asked me to ask that.
Well, there's
Okay.
been some piercing of that bubble because we've seen an uptick in hate crimes. That's something that
Certainly.
the governor stepped forward and saying we're going to be vigilant on, and the attorney general here in New York has been on the watch for that as well. And some prominent folks, including, the park was defaced in Brooklyn Heights.
Yes, the Adam Yauch Park. In 2013, it was named for the deceased Beastie Boy, and Friday night they found SWAT stickers and pro-Trump vandalism there. Saturday, that place was filled with kids and people ready to do over that vandalism, so it was kind of a nice turnaround there. And I had a friend who said, oh, now white people are listening because a Beastie Boy got his thing defamed. But I mean, it turns out there's MCA right there. He's one of the Beastie Boys speaking. You know, I mean, this is happening all over. Can you speak to sort of other hate crimes that have been going on throughout the 5 boroughs?
Yeah, so this doesn't surprise me that people came out really quickly and sort of said no to this because I saw that in Crown Heights there was a swastika that was drawn on Montgomery Street near Brooklyn Avenue, and that was also the Sunday after the election. So I had the pro-love rally in Grand Army, and then right after that it was
homemade signs.
and then there was a swastika drawn. But right after that happened, only hours after it happened, a self-proclaimed anarchist type street artist came out and actually drew a no sign on it, sort of blocked it out and said, no, this isn't going to stand. So that's sort of the sentiment I've seen in Brooklyn is if anything happens, we're going to come right out and say, absolutely not. Yeah.
So how is the NYPD preparing, Aiden, for these uptick in hate crimes and all that?
They are, I imagine, they're trying to be as vigilant as possible right now, investigating all of them that come across their desk. That's sort of a local response. There's also a statewide response. I think the Attorney General and the Governor have set up special hotlines that you can call and report incidents. The Governor has said he's going to create a new special task force for hate crimes as well. So everybody's kind of just aware that this is a thing that we now have to take even all the more seriously. Especially, I mean, the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, they said that in like a span of 8 or so days, they saw more than 400 hate crimes throughout the nation. And we've already seen an uptick here in the city as well. So everybody's just sort of all right, be on the watch.
So how do you guys, like the editorial sort of purview over at DNA, do you guys think about that in sort of environment when you report on something like Pence going to see Hamilton and the mixture of cheers and more boos that happened and them addressing him from the stage and all of these things as a sort of form of protest, those theater types going after the VP versus very real hate crimes that we strongly suspect are tied directly to Trump being elected?
I mean, we keep it all in mind when we go out into the field. I mean, you don't want to ignore anything. You just want to be as aware as possible because, I mean, there's so much going on. I think you'd be a fool to ignore something.
Yeah, and we cover it all from, something as big as the Hamilton, thing that happened there. I mean, that's national news now, but we also cover the one little sign that was placed on a signpost in Windsor Terrace, or the one swastika, which by the way was drawn backwards, so it wasn't drawn correctly on Montgomery Street. So we're just keeping our eyes out for every hyper local thing that's going on post-election. Yeah.
Have you been surprised by anything in the response after, or?
I mean, can you be surprised anymore?
It's hard. I actually was surprised. The one thing happened in Crown Heights last week that I was surprised by. I went to a precinct council meeting, and I walked in, and they were playing a Fox News segment, which surprised me.
Yeah.
And 3 Trump supporters were there, and they were receiving awards for the promise to help an elderly woman find housing, and the precinct council president had given them these awards to say, thank you for being in the community. Here's a tie between us now. And I had never seen that before. This is a very blue Democrat. I mean, it's Eastern Crown Heights. I was just very, very surprised to see that. But even in the bluest part of the borough, there are Trump supporters there, and they were shaking hands and taking photos with people in Brooklyn. So.
Yeah, that's the reconciliation starting in Brooklyn, in our own bubble. But I wonder how you feel about the prospect of having a president who tweets back, who will get on and say, shameful what happened to this guy, or these people are hacks, I don't like this caricature. Like, you are you are in the line of fire, presumably. Like, you're one tweet away.
It's unprecedented, that's for certain.
I was specifically about the Hamilton thing. I was just really surprised to see that he was speaking about a safe space or free speech, and I just think, being journalists, we think about the First Amendment all the time, and I was very interested to see that because at once he's pushing back on journalists a lot, but then asking for a safe space, I suppose, for Mike Pence. Yeah. Always coming at 2 directions with him.
I welcome him to tweet at me. It might be a boon for my career. We only have a minute left. Where can we find out more stuff? I don't know, quick hits. When's the L train shutting down?
Jeez, I don't know. I think you'd have to talk to our Williamsburg reporter, Gwen Hogan, who's been tracking that day in and day out.
I'm just waiting for the backlash from the real estate to get more expensive where I cover, because it's coming. The other trains are going to suffer, I think.
Yep.
That's very real. Okay. We'll find you both on DNA Info. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us here. And please come back again soon, because we want to continue this conversation. It's obviously something that's evolving and, just now becoming a reality in the last 12 days or so, right?
Yeah, well, before we get out of here, we have to give a quick shout out to Amy Zimmer, who was meant to be here today and actually tore her ACL. So speedy recovery, Amy. We hope you're back on your feet very soon. All right.
Thank you both very much for being here.